I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
That's Sparky.
And Salty and Chip.
Shout out to the big homie Kurt Brown.
Yeah.
2-hour drive.
Yikes.
I think it's back and forth. Hour there and hour back.
Yeah, that's...
So he listens to Vin and Sori. So
it's a lot of gas.
Shout out to you, my guy. I remember we shot a 17-minute video like way back. It was after the second Slipknot video and we did that thing like, hey, is this too long?
Yeah,
17 minutes
that's
too
right.
long? Remember that?
Yeah.
And people were like, no, 17 minutes is okay. And we said, thank you very much. And proceeded to do
go to 45.
Hour-long review.
Yeah.
No, Behemoth was our longest one. Like, that's when we really introduced the long-form review.
Yep. Well, when we first started, I thought, this is terrible. You have got to keep it under 15 minutes.
I remember that. You were saying under 10 minutes.
Yeah, because I'm like, people aren't going to want to sit around and listen to...
Yeah, we didn't think it through.
No, but people, people seem fine with it. I mean, there's some people that are like, get shorter reviews. We're like...
Anyway, so this is The God That Failed. This has been a song that a lot of people have been asking us to do. So the last Metallica song we did was on their first record. It was on the Kill 'Em All record. This one is on the Black album.
Okay.
This is the one where they sold out, whatever people want to say. I mean, it's definitely a different type of Metallica. Definitely a different type of Metallica. But anyway, it's a classic song.
Maybe I'm more ready for it now.
It's a classic song, I think, and it's probably going to generate some interesting conversation. So, God That Failed, Metallica, let's do it.
Okay, go.
That's a bass guitar, ladies and gentlemen. Doesn't the bass guitar make you feel like a badass? What'd you think?
It wasn't what I expected. I thought they were going to be angry with God. But it's not.
Well, Hetfield never gets to like Slipknot, Korn type vocals. He never goes there.
Yeah, but even lyrically, he doesn't sound like he's angry at God. Kind of, what?
Yeah, no, I mean, it didn't seem like he was like hateful or vengeful or angry.
No.
Well, I mean, that's a relative term.
What do you mean?
I think, like, if you've never heard metal before,
yeah,
I could see a person saying this dude is angry.
Oh, maybe.
I think you become like.
Yeah, you're probably right.
You become desensitized to.
Yeah.
Because there's Slipknot, there's.
Yeah.
Fuck the shit, I'm sick of it, you're going down, this is a war.
Yeah, that's true.
If Corey would have been singing this, it would have been a lot more, emotional.
It's more mild.
Yeah. Like, he's still trying to hit notes and stuff vocally here. Like, he's not trying to,
Well, let's want to break them down because maybe there's something that I'm missing.
What do you mean?
Who's it talking about in the first verse? Pride you took, pride you feel. Is that God the Father?
No, I talked
know?
about this, like, way back. His mother got cancer. She was part of, like, I think it was Christian Scientists.
Okay.
And they don't believe in, like, modern medicine. Mm-hmm. So she wouldn't get any treatments.
Oh, gosh.
And she ended up dying.
Oh.
Yeah. So. I think he's talking about his mother. Pride that you feel when you kneel, because there's a certain religious, religious pride in, like, oh, I've got faith in God. I don't need no doctors. And it's kind of a deceptive thing because it looks like you're like this humble, pious person, but there's a lot of spiritual pride in doing that. Mm-hmm. So, pride you took, pride you feel when you kneel.
Pride you took?
Mm-hmm.
Like, took his pride?
Probably.
Because she wouldn't go get help and he was ashamed of the fact that she would just keep trying to pray it.
Well, I mean, the concept of pride and shame is actually very fascinating to me when I talk to you, because there's a lot of things where, like, you talk about pride and shame to me that, like, I can't understand it. Mm-hmm. So, like, if my mother died in that type of a circumstance, like, pride or shame would be, like, the last thing that I could think of. But, I mean, obviously there was some sort of shame element there, right? Pride you took.
I'm sure that people were saying, so how's your mom doing? Well, she's not doing good. Would she seeing a doctor? Everybody always has their advice. I have this really great doctor. She's not seeing a doctor. She's going to pray about it.
Right, then they look at you. They probably have that.
Well, get your mom to a doctor, but she doesn't want to, you know what I mean?
I mean, he's a kid at this point, but yeah, I see what you're saying. I guess it would be an embarrassing thing, I guess. That, like, that's how your parent dies. Like, that's a pretty stupid way to die, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, if the person's saying, oh no, and they're just praying through it, and then they could have gotten help from the doctors.
Yeah, and I'm trying to. So you came from a Pentecostal background.
Yeah, I came from a Pentecostal background.
So you came from Pentecostal. So, like, was there ever any of that, like, hey, we don't go to the doctor?
No, not at my church. There wasn't. No, but like I said, when I went to Bible college, there was one of our teachers was visiting this woman that was her belief system.
What was her belief system?
That you just pray about it and it's healed in the name of Jesus because you believe it to be so. Other than that, I never saw that.
Sure, I mean, there's a category for that in the Bible, but, like, what?
No, that was the woman with the blackened arm, full of cancer.
Yeah, but I guess.
What?
What militates? What passage are we looking at that goes against going to a doctor?
I don't know. Maybe because it says, doesn't God say, I'm your healer?
Yeah, so?
So if God is your healer, I think they're looking at it as then you should only go to him for your healing. You shouldn't go to some doctor.
Well, that's ridiculous. He also says that he encompasses the righteous and protects them.
Yeah.
Did that lady not believe in locking her door? She didn't believe in locking her door?
No, I don't know anything about her.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming that these people
I'm sure
believe
she
in
probably
locking...
locked her door.
Well, why? God is your protector.
Don't the Jehovah Witnesses believe you can't have blood transfusions because
Right.
the Bible says that the life is in the blood?
Well, you're not supposed to consume blood.
Yeah.
So you're not supposed to eat meat with the blood still in it.
Yeah.
So the logic is, if you can't eat meat with the blood still in it, how the hell can you, have blood running? It's a form of ingesting blood, in their opinion. Blood transfusion.
Oh.
But so that's the logic. So because
No,
God
honey,
says,
I don't know what the logic is.
God says He's a healer.
That
Means
my
that
guess.
you shouldn't. So God.
But my church didn't believe like that. They believed you should pray over the person and see a doctor. Both can work.
Yeah, Yasser Qadi says that trust Allah and tie your camel.
Right. I always like that one.
Who is it? It's the Kingdom of Heaven. There was one guy. It was Salahuddin. So it's the Muslims, and there was this guy who was like a general. He's very hot-headed, and he's like, "We need to go now. We need to fight him now." And Salahuddin's like, "Nah, that's bad strategy." And then the guy goes, "Who cares about strategy? Allah will give us the victory." And Salahuddin says, "Allah gives victory to the one who has the best strategy." So, mashallah tabaraka, good for you. But like, yeah, it's a very, very strange idea because my mother was a very big Pentecostal, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
But when I had my eye torn open, I mean, she went and took me to get stitches. She went and took me to the hospital. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, my mother was...
even when you were a baby.
She was a nurse.
Yeah.
So, she obviously believed in modern
the
medicine.
Baby, they did the opposite when you were a baby. They didn't end up taking you to the doctors.
Oh, shit. That's true. So I had subglottic stenosis. And they were going to do a trach and all this, and my parents decided that they didn't want me to have a trach and have a tube in my throat my whole life. So they took me to the church, and they had the pastor pray for me. And the pastor basically said, if you want him, take him back. But if you don't want him, heal him.
Praying to God.
Praying to God, yeah. And so so that was the prayer. And then they said, all right, they decided no tracheotomy for Vin, subglottic stenosis. Here we go. And so then I went to the hospital, and I was completely boom, done deal. I was straight. I was completely healed. I had a cataract in my eye. They said, well, he's gonna need glasses when he gets older. And then I had some other issues. They're like, well, I mean, I guess you don't need the trach, but he's never gonna have kids. Shrink. Yeah. So that happened.
So there was a time to pray and then a time to bring you to the doctors.
Yeah, but they went against the doctors. They didn't. But it wasn't like a faith thing. It was, we don't want him living all of his life with a trach, with a tube in his throat and all this. So
is that where your voice isn't actually your voice, it's that thing?
Yeah, I don't know what subglottic stenosis is. I just heard that growing up my whole life. You had subglottic stenosis and trach and all this.
Yeah.
And it was pretty crazy. Well, what's funny is that, my mom and dad split. I never saw them together, but they both told me the story. Mm-hmm. And I heard the story mostly from my mom. Mm-hmm. And so I asked my dad a couple years back. I said, what happened? And he told me the whole thing. I wrote the whole thing out, and I left it in my other phone. So he had details and stuff like that. And he sent me a screenshot of the diagnosis and all that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So and then my whole life, I had this thing hanging over me, God saved your life for a reason, and blah blah blah, and it was a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, when I was felt like killing myself and blah blah blah, and I was in the hospital, it was no way, you can't be done yet because you haven't done anything, with your life. So there's no way, because God kept you alive for a reason. But then on the other side, it was that was a ton of fucking pressure, man.
Yeah.
It's you don't want to drop the ball at something huge like that, here's this guy, you're some miracle baby, and then bang, you're a fucking loser, you've done nothing. So when I hit my 20s, every birthday, I literally I would feel all this pressure, oh my God, I've done nothing with my life.
I remember the first time I heard you say that, I was like, what? Because I was like, I always liked my birthdays. I always felt happy. Oh, it's my birthday.
I hated them.
And then you were like, I always felt a little bit embarrassed about my birthday, but I liked it. And you were like, that was the strangest thing. Like, it almost seemed like it made you angry, your birthday. Like,
I was. It was a very complex emotion. I was mad at myself for not doing anything like world changing. Mm-hmm. And then I was angry at my family for like putting this horrible burden on me. I was mad at God for like, putting this horrible burden on me, but yeah, it was very, very strange because like that was like that has been like the overarching meta narrative of my life. Like period. Like,
oh yeah,
it's always there in the back of my whatever. But it's strange. So it's like on the one hand, it's like. And people can, I'm sure, because we've got a bunch of atheists and agnostics, and, most of them are going to be like, I don't know, maybe it could have happened. And then other people are going to be like, that didn't happen, that's bullshit. But here's the thing, it's undeniable, if you spend any time in the medical profession, it's undeniable that there are bunches of times when a doctor will give a diagnosis and say, you're done.
Yeah.
And then, boom, the person pulls through.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Medical miracle. I mean, that's a term. That's a thing.
Right.
And do what you want with it. So to me, it's like, and it's like those people don't want to face reality. Mm-hmm. Like the reality is, all of your modern technology and science, like by all intents and purposes, this person should be dead in 3 weeks, and they're fucking going on for another decade.
Yeah.
Sorry, but like, so I feel like both sides of the discussion like aren't willing to face reality. It's like, oh, a miracle's guaranteed to happen. No, that's why it's called a miracle. If it happened every day, it would be called a common occurrence. So it's like, no, like miracles are not guaranteed to happen. Like you should go to the doctor. Like if you're
sorry.
If your child has pneumonia and shit, like don't sit there and like, okay, great, prayer for them. Like in the car on the way to the hospital. There's nothing in the Bible against that. As a matter of fact, we talked about this in the other video where there are multiple times when, like for example, Timothy's got a bad stomach because he's drinking only water and they had no antibiotics, so they used to combine the alcohol. And Paul says, stop drinking only water, use wine, it'll help your stomach.
Right.
That's a medicinal solution. He doesn't come with like hooey. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of like religious people are denying reality. Like the reality is.
I think there's a lot though. I don't feel like that's a big.
Right. I agree with that.
I don't think.
I agree. I think that's a fringe.
Yeah.
That's a fringe.
I think so.
The reality is like we need modern medicine. On the other hand, I think a lot of naturalists. Humanists deny reality, which is there are many times when people get healed for inexplicable reasons that you don't have a category for and you don't want to admit it.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah. I think that's.
Which then opens up a whole other ball of wax, which is, okay, well, Mr. Vin, why did God heal you and then all those other babies with subglottic stenosis died or had a trach?
I know.
Or why did God heal that crazy cancer person who's a relatively, pedestrian individual, whereas this very, very good person, the cancer took him out fucking a week earlier than the doctor said they would.
Right. Why didn't Hitler get struck with that before he did all the atrocities that he did?
We were listening to that thing where Hitler was with his boys in World War I, and he went to go to the bathroom or something. He comes back, everybody's dead.
Yeah.
Like his little crew, they all died. And somehow he stays alive. Yeah. Like that's real troubling shit.
Yeah, that is.
Like that's some real troubling shit. That's like, okay. So like that line, so it does open up a whole set of other questions. Like sometimes like I'll hear people, they'll tell stories about how like they had decided that day that they were gonna go kill themselves.
Yep.
And then they get some message from somebody randomly. God loves you.
Yep.
And I always am very grateful for those stories. Like I love them. I'm very happy. But in the back of my mind, I'm like,
what about all the other people that didn't happen?
What about the very specific people in my family that that didn't happen with? Nobody said that to them.
Right.
So it's like, you know, like acknowledging that miracles happen, I think sometimes creates more problems than solutions.
Well, that used to happen, like, remember we were in that church group, and like God was like speaking to some people, and like they were getting really clear things from God, like very, very specific things that they would not have known otherwise. And then other people, they weren't hearing anything. And so those people were like, why not me? Like, why am I not hearing anything?
Yeah.
like why
It makes
I don't
it worse.
know. Yeah,
Whereas
it made
if
it
nobody,
worse.
if
nobody was hearing anything,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, and you know, we got this friend from the good friend of mine from the channel that you know, he basically said, you know, God doesn't talk to me. He was very angry.
Yeah.
And it's like, to me, that's please talk to me. Mm-hmm. And for whatever reason, he's getting a lot of silence right now. And you know, you know, there are other solutions to that, but you know, so this song doesn't go there because this song basically presents the miracle didn't happen, so God failed.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one degree of a crisis of faith where you say God failed. But there's another crisis of faith, which is God. I told you about that missionary lady.
Which one?
She was in Afghanistan right before the Taliban took over.
Yeah.
And she was in this village, and all these kids started getting sick and dying, and so they brought the kids to her little hut or whatever and said, "You're the Jesus lady, pray for my kid." Well, so she prays for the kid, and the kid gets healed. So then the other lady comes in and says, "Hey, you're the Jesus lady, pray for my kid." Boom, the kid gets healed. Allahu Akbar. So now there's a line of people at this lady's hut. Boom, 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 boom. And then she had this one kid, and she's like flying high.
Yeah.
And she prays for the kid. The kid dies in her arms. And then she hands the dead kid over back to her mom. Meanwhile, all these other women are like yelling and whatever they do.
Happy that their kid is alive.
And then this woman is holding a dead kid. She said she'd never been more angry at God in her life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting because she said that God said to her, "Sister, have I done you any wrong?" And
because she was probably more angry if you wouldn't have healed any of them.
Because if nobody gets healed, then you come with the typical Christian, "Hey, everything happened for a reason, blah, 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 I'm here for you, yada, yada, yada." But
he's handing out healing, hand over fist, and then all of a sudden, why not this kid?
Not you.
Ugh.
You know, she that took her out for a long time, she said. And she had this thing where she said, and you know, she heard God say to her, "Sister, have I done you any wrong?" And she couldn't respond. She was so angry. She was so hurt. So like sometimes like, and to this day, like a lot of people, like if I was an unbeliever, like sometimes I feel like unbelievers don't have enough information to really mount a very good argument. The concept of like mocking miracles, I think if I was an unbeliever and I wanted to destroy Christianity, like I wouldn't mock miracles. I would say, no, they happen. They just don't happen to the people it should happen for. That's a much tougher question in my mind than do they actually happen?
Yeah, but do they actually happen? If you say yes, they happen, but why do they? You're acknowledging that there's a supernatural being that's behind these supernatural acts, and they're trying to deny the existence of God. So of course they're not going to say that.
I wouldn't say that. I would just say yes, miracles happen and they're inexplicable, but I know that it's not God. Here's why. Because why would you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feel like that's a much more nuanced, difficult question to answer than to say, "Oh, there's no such thing as miracles." Because, like I said, that's a denial of reality.
Yep.
Say miracles happen and we can't explain them. Fine.
Right.
But don't say that miracles never happen. They happen.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, they've happened in my life, and I don't care what anybody says. I've experienced them. What are you going to tell me?
Yeah.
And the only debate is it God or not? That's the question.
Right.
And that's the locus of the argument. But I mean, that's a much tougher thing. I mean, and I never really understood. I never heard from her because honestly, when she was telling that story, because it was a small group of us, when she's telling that story, I pretty much blacked out at that point, as far as like listening to like what the conclusion was. Because I remember thinking, well, I just remember thinking to myself like, I don't ever want to be in that situation. Mm-hmm. Like there's certain types of crises of faith where I feel like I'm very good and I'm tooled up for it.
Uh-huh.
But those types of things I'm not good at.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's
Maybe that's where my negativity would come in.
I don't see how you get over something like that.
Because I'd be like, it's not gonna happen. I mean, I remember there was this woman that, like, we were walking around in that park, and this woman came up to me, and she was like, oh, my tooth is hurting so badly. And she's like, she didn't have any money to get it fixed. And I was like, I did not expect God to do anything for this woman. Like, I just didn't think, like, that doesn't usually happen. I said, let me pray over it. And so I prayed for her, and off she went, and I didn't see her for weeks later. And then somebody else came up to me and was like, hey, I bumped into so-and-so. She said that you prayed over her and healed her mouth. I'm like, what?
I remember
couldn't
that.
even believe it. And then I saw her literally, like, it was, went 6 months and a year later probably after, and I would always ask her because I always felt like at some point...
Yeah, you weren't doing very good spiritually.
No.
So
I was like, this thing is going to just, midnight's going to strike and everything's going to turn back to a fucking pumpkin.
Yeah, the psychosoma.
Yeah.
And what people don't realize is in our area, like, dental is like a major issue. Major issue.
They don't have money, and so they can't see the dentist. And even if they have state aid, they don't. That doesn't cover.
Well, they just don't. But
stuff.
they just don't care.
Yeah.
Like they just don't care. They don't take care of themselves.
I know that's true. Yeah.
So yeah, I remember that. I remember that whole thing happened, and you were so full of unbelief. You're like, ah.
I was, and you know what was crazy?
You're like begrudgingly praying.
I was like, the woman who was telling me she was in pain, what was I gonna do?
Yeah.
So I was like, let me pray over you.
Yeah.
Pray over her. And then it was weird because, like, a week after that, some other girl came up to me and she was like, my back is hurting so badly. And I was like, I said to her, I mean, I can pray for you, but God doesn't usually answer these types of prayers for me. So, but I can still pray for you. She was like, okay, and I prayed, and her back was fine after that too. It was the weirdest thing because that literally doesn't happen for me. Like, what?
Well, it wasn't for you; it was for her. But anyway, so yeah, I don't know. Betrayal.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in the Bible that felt betrayed by God.
It's so weird because I didn't really, I guess, understand the song, but because to me, I thought that this was talking about God the Father and trust you gave a child to save, left you cold, and him in the grave. A child to save, like as in Jesus was his child, he comes to the earth, and then he's left cold, like God the Father is left cold, and Jesus is in the grave. Like, I totally, like...
Yeah, I don't think that...
Totally, like, read the whole other narrative into this. And then when it said, like... But then, it said the healing hand held back by the deepened nail, follow the God that failed. Like, it was basically, like, broken is the promise, betrayal. Like, he sent him, everything went down, like... And the only one that can heal is now nailed to a cross, with the nails in his hands, and then follow the God that failed. Now, we're all supposed to follow this guy that failed.
Which guy?
Jesus. Or the Father, either one.
Yeah, I don't think that he has a very good understanding of the Trinity. I don't think he was
seeing the difference.
No.
Okay, so what did you get out of it?
He's talking about his mother. A child to save would be him.
Yep.
And it left you cold, as in dead, and him in grave because he died when she died.
Oh.
His soul died when she died, which I can attest to that. When your mom dies in bad circumstances, you're not the same. Period.
I bet you're not the same if your mom dies in any circumstances, because it's your mom. And then when it's bad circumstances, it's going to be a whole nother world.
When she dies and she didn't have to die that way, it's like...
Oh.
She dies of old age, I mean, it sucks, but it's, But it's the same thing with Maynard.
Yeah.
With his mom, like, she didn't have to die that way. Well, what's interesting with Maynard is that he was upset at her for just holding on to her faith.
Yeah.
But he's more upset at God, I think. But like this one, he's upset at his mom. But I almost never give Hetfield enough credit for his lyrical prowess. This song had irony. It had a lot of... I thought he was pretty smart lyrically with this song. Mm-hmm. The healing... I think, to me, I don't think that he really believed that Jesus' hands were healing hand, at least not at this point. Not at this point in his walk.
What do you think that line means?
I think it's ironic because that's exactly what they were saying. They were saying this guy saved others. He can't take himself off the cross.
Yeah.
So how are you some big savior? How are you some big healer if you can't? If your hands were healing all these people, how come the nails are keeping you on the cross then?
Yeah.
So I don't think that because.
So what are you saying? He's just mocking the God that his mother follows?
Well, I don't know if it's mocking. I mean, it could be construed.
Follow the God that failed.
I think I don't think that's mockery. I think that's hurt and anger. It's why didn't he extend his healing hand to you, mother? Because you obviously believed in him.
Yep.
But he couldn't because it was held back by the nails in the sense of like, it was restricted. He didn't have the power. He didn't have the power to unnail himself from the cross. So how is he going to have the power to heal you? It's irony.
Oh, I see. I see what you're saying.
Of course, the grand irony in this entire thing is that the Christian narrative is that the ultimate healing came because his hands were pierced. Right? It's like you know, he was by his wounds we were healed. Mm-hmm. So it's like. Was that all we like sheep have gone astray? We've turned everyone to his own way, and the Lord has laid upon him the iniquity of us all. Mm-hmm. He was oppressed and he was afflicted, and all this good stuff. And then it says, and then by his wounds we were healed. Mm-hmm. And so it was the supposed failure. What's interesting is like this song sounds blasphemous, but all the disciples looked at him as a failure.
Yeah,
that's why they ran when he got arrested by the Romans.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, when the Romans were arresting him and all this, like, they didn't stay, like, faithful. Like, only John was there. It was John and the women. Mm-hmm. All the dudes were gone.
Right.
The woman, like, stayed true to him and stuck it out. Sorry, fellas. Mm-hmm. Those are the facts. And so it's like they looked at him as a God that failed.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can you say that this is blasphemous when his own followers... Mm-hmm. And then magically, 3 days later, for no apparent reason, they all decided to construct this narrative that he rose from the dead and then let themselves get burned alive, burned at the stake, and eaten by lions in Nero's gardens / arenas. For a lie that they knew was a lie.
Just doesn't make any sense!
Okay. Back to your regular scheduled program. Yeah, so it's like... this is you know, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, all these people are so much more closer to God than a lot of. I don't want to rag on evangelicalism because that's where we came from and that's where we are, right? Mm-hmm. Like to some degree. But it's just these people are so honest and real with God, and I feel like God's like, that is what we need. Mm-hmm. Like Habakkuk, Job, all these like Old Testament people were like, what are you doing? Yeah. And why are you doing this? And the concept of betrayal. I mean, Job came pretty close to saying that. And it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know, like, where did we come in religion where it was like, you can't say stuff like that anymore?
I don't know.
You know?
I don't know. Because God has always been concerned with a person's heart and what their actual real thoughts are inside. Yeah. And that's explicitly clear in the scripture, so I don't know how we steered away from that.
I remember one time I was praying and I used to be very, very like meticulous about what I would say because I never wanted to say the wrong thing. And like, I remember one time just hearing like, I know everything. Mm-hmm. What are you doing? Mm-hmm. And I said, oh shit. Mm-hmm. That was such a freeing moment. It's like, oh, he knows everything. All right, well.
Right.
Well, you already know, so here you go. It's very, very cool. I remember one time somebody, I think it was Hitchens or something, said I could never have a relationship with an omniscient being.
Why?
I think he was saying because you're never on equal playing field because a person knows literally everything about you, things you don't know about yourself. I don't care about having a level playing field. Like, it's actually pretty convenient to have somebody that knows me better than I know myself because I don't know why I do 30% of the shit that I do.
Amen.
So,
Amen.
Anyway, good song. Shout out to the big homie James Hetfield. What do you give the song? Be honest.
Well, I was very disappointed with the song because the God that failed, I really thought that it was going to be like, I just thought that he was going to be more raw I mean, maybe for him, he was being very raw. But I think that I was hoping that it was going to be more like, I don't know, what I might say if I wrote a song like this. But, like, so I just was...
What's the number, babe?
I don't know. I think that musically it was good, you know? Yeah, 7. I'll give it a 7. What do you think?
7.8.
Yeah.
I liked it musically. It seemed a little bit formulaic.
It got repetitive, I felt.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I looked at the time. When I look at the time on a song, like...
That's a bad sign.
It's a bad sign. Because that means I'm feeling it too much, as in time. I want to feel the music, not the time.
It was a little bit formulaic, and this is the difference. I mean, compare this to Four Horsemen, right? Where Four Horsemen was all over the place.
Yeah, this is ridiculous.
This is why people complain about Black Album Metallica, because like this is accessible. Verse, chorus, verse, middle, bridge, gone.
Yeah.
Right? Like.
Yeah.
But it was they were trying to put Metallica into the mainstream, and it's 5-minute formula songs, 4/4. Here we go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the musicianship was still good.
Yeah.
It's just not like this is world changing shit.
I could almost do a 6 even.
I hear you. What's the final count?
I think I'm going with that. I'm going with a 6.
Still a 7.8 for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a 6.
The reasons I would have given it a 6, but I think lyrically, Hetfield deserves credit for doing something that lyrically I think he did a really, really good. I don't think he was like sometimes when bands like say stuff against God or whatever, like it's just over the top blasphemous and almost sophomoric and childish. Like,
Yep.
oh, here we go. You're gonna like that Deicide song. Kill the Christians, kill the Christians, beat them up, hurt their feelings. Like, you know, like, come on, man. Like, are you serious? Like,
Yeah.
you're a grown man and you're saying shit like that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like,
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, this is so stupid. But, like, I felt like he was very provocative, but he didn't get, like, blasphemous crazy. You know, he was provocative. So, lyrically, I thought he did a very good job. He used irony. He was clear. And he hit a topic and he handled it very well. So, he gets 7.8. Otherwise, it would have been probably a 6 for me as well. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay.
Okay.
6 it is for me.
Kurt, tell us what you voted, buddy. Been out.
Sorry out.
Gone.
Trust you gave.